in How I Met Your Mother, there's meant to be, Barney is meant to be the only not great person when it comes to treating women and things like that. And don't get it twisted, he is not good. He's pretty irredeemable. But Ted is right there with him. Ted is not far off at all. To be honest with you, Ted's, right there next to him, riding shotgun, as they both continue to be pieces of shit. I'm talking about the show How I Met Your Mother. The main point is just to go through the stories that led up to Ted finding his future wife and the mother of his children. That's pretty much the main thing. That's a synopsis of it. It's all about Ted, his relationships, how he meets different women, how he goes about dates, how he's go through heartbreak, how his friends help him go through all these things. All this stuff is about Ted for the most part. And he is irredeemable as a person. How he treats the women that he is partnered with, how he treats potential partners, and how he treats past partners. His personality sucks as well. Like, the whole thing is just he's not very redeemable. So with this show, the concept of it is fantastic. Talking to your, future kids about how you met, their mom is fantastic. Great concept, good stuff. Really good stuff. And this show it's an older show. I mean, older show to kids these days, but it came out in the mid 2000s, so 2007. So some of the things are dated for sure, but for the most part, it's from that time. But just to stick on to Ted, you can see his his red flag habits from the very first episode. He meets Robin, the love of his life that he thinks, love at first sight type thing. And, he goes up to her, he wants her. She does agree to go out with him first, but after realizes, nah, he's not it. But he pursues and does not take no for an answer. That's a big thing that you're going to notice about Ted. He does not take no for an answer. So he is going to persuade you and push you until you eventually say yes and realize that this was a terrible mistake that you knew was a mistake prior to saying yes to him. So he's going to keep doing that. He's going to get you to say yes, and that's kind of what he does. That's how he lures people in. And the way the show portrays it is that he's just a romantic. He's a huge romantic, and he will do anything. He will make these grand gestures and these big things to... It's funny, that's not the craziest thing. They go on a date. They have a good time on the date, come back to her place, everything's going well. This is the first date. They are back at her place. They are looking at each other. They're holding each other, whatever. And this man proceeds to blurt out, "I think I'm in love with you." It's the first date and he thinks he's in love with her. So that just gives you a real understanding of who Ted is as a person, or how he portrays himself to the women he's interested in. The gripe I kind of have with the show and how they wrote Ted was pretty much that going into it, they prefaced it by every action he does is romantic. So it's not pushy or it's not a red flaggy. I know this term didn't exist back then, but it's not a bad thing. He's not doing anything overtly bad or anything like that. He's just a super romantic guy, and he loves the fairy tale story type of thing. So that's what his actions portray, and that's what he's kind of doing. Even if it doesn't seem like that, that's what he is, and that's what he's trying to do. So that's how the show portrays it from the very first episode. And I hate that because it just excuses all the BS that he does that are little things that don't seem big, but they actually are in hindsight when they pile up. So they are making it seem like all of these things are fine and he's a stand-up guy, when all of his actions clearly indicate that he is not a stand-up guy and he is a nice guy. Air quotes is extremely important in that. Like I said, Barney's a sleazy guy. He's the intended sleazy guy for this show, but Ted is right there with him in that sidecar. Where you really get to understand his awful person is in the relationships. So there are two main relationships in this that I want to talk about because, I could talk about every relationship he's been in the show, and that will really you'll see the BS that he creates and all this stuff. But I really wanted to talk about the two main ones that are constantly talked about throughout the show and constantly go back with. That's obviously Robin and that's Victoria as well. So these two relationships were huge, the kind of building blocks of everything. And just to let you know, the show wants Ted and Robin together. That's what they want. They want them together in the end. They just want to create this maze to get to the middle, which is Robin. So, there's going to be multiple different relationships around this maze before you get to the middle. So their main goal is eventually to get to Robin. But Victoria was also super big into this, so we'll kind of touch on her first. They first meet at a party, at a wedding. She caters the wedding, so that's how they kind of meet and blah, blah, blah. They eventually kind of, hit it off and start talking and get together and all that stuff. Victoria's a good girl. She's obviously kind of the best. You can see from the start that she was going to be one of those people that's just like, this is somebody that you ideally would want to end up with. And they were really good for a little bit, of course, as it all goes. But, little things pile up. Victoria had to get over, which Ted just makes his relationships get over, Robin. So at this point, when he meets Victoria and he wants to date, and he's dating Victoria, Ted and Robin had already did their thing. They had tried once and it didn't work out. But they're still great friends, of course. So, Ted is making Victoria just be cool with him being extremely close to this love of his life that he's friends with. Mind you, the big thing that also was huge in this is that Victoria didn't even know. Victoria did not know that Robin was an ex. So he obviously lied and didn't say anything about that or omitted, which is lying. Eventually, when she did find out, that wasn't great, it made her feel self-conscious of their relationship because Robin and Ted are super close and they've always been kind of close, and that will always be a thing from the way he explains it. Ted really reminds me of Ross in a lot of ways of how they're both kind of pieces of shit. But getting back to Ted and Victoria, that didn't work. And that was never going to work. That eventually was the issue, the main thing. And also she went to Germany for cooking. So when the relationship was obviously already kind of, it was on shaky ground to begin with after everything come out and Ted being kind of not awesome during that with little things. When Victoria gets the opportunity to go to Germany for work, I don't know why I said work like that, but anyways, for work, it's kind of a make a decision. Ted doesn't want to leave New York, so she ends up going and he stays. So that kind of happens and that goes on. Eventually, literally, I don't know, a couple seasons down the road, Victoria comes back into the fray.
So Victoria comes back, but she's in a relationship and soon to get married, honestly, actually. But she does end up cheating on her soon-to-be husband with Ted, which is not good. So it does get a little messy, but like I said, it's all Ted.
No, it doesn't. There's obviously issues with Victoria and her ex as well. Like, I'm not saying Victoria was perfect in this situation. She had her slip-ups, she had her mistakes, and all these things with the ex and all that other stuff. So she had other things as well. But it felt like Ted was really the driving force in creating this mayhem that was their relationship. So the second time that they're together and that they're trying it again, it obviously doesn't work out.
I forgot to mention, but the reason why it didn't work out the second time, partly obviously was Victoria was about to get married and, Ted came in and kind of broke that up. And she, kind of ruined the marriage for this big thing that she could have with Ted because obviously Ted made it seem like that. And it's like this is when he wanted to be like a good guy and all this stuff. And he doesn't want to break up the marriage, but then isn't sure. He isn't sure if they should go out or something, but they do end up going out and they do break the marriage. So this is why, understandably, Victoria is pissed this second time around because, you still have Robin around. I made this huge sacrifice to leave my relationship for you and you won't leave Robin for me when that was huge. She was about to get married and you won't leave for you and you're pretending like you don't even know that there's this huge elephant in the room. That's why she's pissed. And he does that constantly to everybody.
Because there's a big elephant in the room and that's still Robin. And when she's leaving for the final time, for the final time, he he said, "Why couldn't it work?" And she's like, "You know why it couldn't work. It's Robin." And he's like, "Oh, what? The ex that I'm madly in love with? Oh my gosh, there's no way. She's not even a thing. She's my friend." So he goes into that old bullshit of just like, when it's clear that you still have an undying love for her that's down there that everybody can see. Marshall says this whole throughout the show constantly, like, you're gonna end up with Robin. You want to be with Robin. The whole thing. So like, it's just not good. It's not good. A lot of instances with different girls that he'd create bad situations because he doesn't know what he wants, so he hurts other people while not knowing what he wants. Whether it's, keeping people on the hook, cheating. He's the person that will act like the victim. He will act like the victim. He thinks everything's coming to him. Everybody's hurting him. Why is everything so down on me? Oh, poor shucks. Oh, me, oh my. Why is all these things happening to me? It shouldn't be happening to me. I'm a good guy. He is that person. Little things like stalking, cheating, love bombing. All these little things are things that Ted sprinkles into every relationship that he's a part of. Manipulation, gaslighting, the whole thing. He does all of these little things throughout every relationship. Victoria was no different. The big relationship here is obviously Robin. Robin was treated poorly and negatively from the very beginning. Like I kind of said in the start, from the very beginning, he coerced her into dating him. And I didn't tell you, within that, he broke into her apartment. He stalked her first. Then he broke into her apartment, set up some whole orchestra with a bunch of roses around and stuff. That's how he got her to say yes to the original first date. So that was before they even started dating. They were barely friends, and he broke into her apartment. It's not good. And what's crazy to me is that Ted was such an awful kind of character to multiple different people and things like that. That he still got the ending that he wanted. I just want to show you kind of the other people that agree. Because I'm not the only one that says this. You could see on Rotten Tomatoes they have a high score on the show, but it's not that good. And multiple people agree, whether it's different articles or TikToks. A lot of people agree with Ted not being a good guy.
Ted Mosby is actually the bad guy of How I Met Your Mother. The show is full of examples where Ted acts selfishly and screws over love interests. And he refuses to allow other people's feelings to factor into his narrative of the reality where he is a romantic protagonist.
She can't say it's not meant to be. It is meant to be, and you know why? Because I mean it to be.
On closer inspection, Ted's supposedly endearing romantic ideas appear more like narcissistic delusions, which he projects on a series of unlucky women. He uses his idea of himself as a good guy to let himself off the hook for awful behavior, because his subconscious reasoning goes, nothing a good guy does could be that bad. This pattern of behavior also makes Ted himself deeply unhappy.
I just want to read this because this was amazing. So this Redditor says, no matter how much I rewatch the series, I always find Ted to be the worst, gullible yet obnoxious, dumb yet pretentious, selfish yet helpful. His obsession with Robin overtakes everyone else, his happiness, his friendships. I mean, he did the worst to Victoria, going back to her again and again to leave her for Robin. This person made a great point saying Ted has no self-respect. He's crying, chasing after the love of his life to have kids and do all these things with the one person that wants the exact opposite. It makes no sense.
The Reddit stuff is what's great. That's real near and dear to me because people see it. It's not just me. People actually see that he is not a good, decent person. And the big thing that really irks me about Ted is that he is just not a good person, but he is a realistic person. This is somebody that you may have known. This is somebody that you may have dated. This may be a friend. These people exist. And that's what really irks me, that this person is probably the most realistic person within the show, and he's, top 2 worst in the show. And it's just like, I don't like these types of people because these are the types of guys that will say they're the nice guy. How come how come no girls like nice guys these days? I'm a nice guy, you know? And nice guy, everything I'm saying is all in air quotes because, you know, they're not really nice guys. If you're to call yourself a nice guy, I don't think you are, you know? Because nobody's really that nice. Some people are, but like most people aren't really that nice. So the nice guys that say they're nice guys these days, that play victim, that say, woe is me all the time, and how come women don't like me, or whatever. He is that guy to a T. He is literally that person to a T. And those people are the opposite of nice guys because they will prove to you with their actions that they don't care about you. They don't care about women. They